Stop what you're doing. I promise this is worth watching. You're about to watch an interview done with a professional that works in the finance industry, not someone who has an online degree, where I interview her about all your questions about personal finance. And what are my credentials? I have a degree in economics with minors in business and computer science. And we had a great discussion that you need to see. So keep watching. We're joined by a very special guest, a seasoned finance professional with years of experience helping individuals and institutions achieve better financial health and smarter investing. She has a deep understanding of how everyday money habits connect to long-term success. Please welcome our guest, Debra. So, there is a question here that I think a lot of people will be interested to hear about, which is what is one common misconception you see people have about money management?
Yeah, I think a misconception could be that maybe they don't qualify for money management. I think that, whether you are someone who is in college, part-time job, or whether you're someone who's maybe in the accumulation phase where you're earning money, right? You're in your career and you're working, or, up to retirement, and maybe you're just living on Social Security, you're not rolling in millions. But I think a misconception could be that people don't feel that they necessarily qualify because maybe in their mind there's a certain dollar amount that they think they need, right, in order to really manage that money. But everything has to start at the beginning, right? So I think that a great place to start is when you are in college or even high school, even young kids. I see, I do work in the banking world, opening up accounts, 6, 7, 8 years old, and they're excited to start to do that, right? Most of that probably stems from their parents, of course. That's where they're learning it from. If their parents have good money management, then it's gonna trickle down to the kids. But I think that a misconception could be that some people along the way just feel like they don't qualify.
Yeah, definitely. I would say there are also like barriers to entry when you talk about financial literacy. And now with the internet, those barriers are becoming smaller and smaller. And if you're in high school and if you start investing $5 a week, you will see that compound over the years into a really good nest egg for you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the effects of compounding, compounding can work for you or against you, right? Compounding can work positively, where you have a savings account or an investment account that's earning you money, or it can work against you, where maybe you have a loan, right? And every day that interest is compounding and the bill is getting.
Wait a minute. Why are we doing this? Who are we? Who is Golden Sunny? Well, we are a fintech startup that's creating a revolutionary banking app that is going to transform your wallet and help you manage your finances and grow your wealth. We are here to help you, and one of our missions is to increase financial literacy and help people explore everything there is to know about finance, fintech, artificial intelligence, and everything in between. So, if any of those things interest you, then you should subscribe, you should join us here, and stay tuned for the next episode. And let's move on to another, which I think connects to this as well when we talk about all the options that are available for people. So, what is your take on the rise of financial apps and digital investing platforms, and are they helping or complicating personal investing?
I think they're a great asset. I think that in today's day and age, in 2025, people have glued to their cell phones, right? And the amount of time that people spend on their phones is exorbitant. And people are used to apps. That's just the way that things roll now. Any company you deal with, any place you go into, oh, do you have an app, right? Download my app. So, just gearing that mindset away from maybe busy apps and things that aren't adding to your life financially or other ways, and gearing that focus towards finance apps and using them. I think they're great. I think they're great for organization. There are ones that include budgeting, right? I mean, everyone should have a budget. That could be a whole nother topic, but from budgeting to just different account types to investing itself, right? It's just the way that the world is working now. And it also helps to keep people organized. So I think they're really an asset.
Definitely. And there's also been some apps that have gamified the process of investing and makes it really easy and fun for people to start. So those are
Yeah,
great options as well if you're a
yeah,
beginner.
yeah. People have to though make sure that they don't,
Yes.
any money that they invest, they have to be okay if they lost it all. If they're, on a little bit of the speculative side. But yeah. Yeah. It's all, Nicole, it's gearing towards the audience, right? That's what's gonna attract people.
Exactly. Yeah. So be careful out there, but definitely look into investing. So let's move on to question number three, which is a really exciting one. So, in a world where inflation and interest rates are more volatile, how should individuals rethink traditional approaches to saving and investing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've gotten around people in my life inside the banking world, outside the banking world, where, years ago, saving was the key to financial dignity. I think it's still very important to save. But with interest rates that are, I guess, that were on the rise a few years ago, but we're still in a very high interest rate economy and environment. Again, on the plus side, when it comes to deposit accounts, I think that people need to take a hold of that and make sure that they can use the inflation and the high rates as an asset to them, right? Because you can save, save, save till the cows come home, but you have to have some kind of, in my opinion, multiplier on your money to actually outpace inflation, right? So, um, you know, it's not a bad thing necessarily, this inflation, as long as you are using it to your advantage.
No, I think that's a great point to make. You can let inflation work against you, or you can use it to your advantage.
Yep.
So let's move on to a really hot topic, which is diversification. Well, at least for me, it's a hot topic. So diversification is often seen as the key to risk management. How can someone balance diversification with focus, especially when building a portfolio with limited capital, perhaps a beginner?
So that's a great question. So, I think people sometimes they want to bite off more than they can chew, and if someone is just starting to work out, to starting to invest, maybe they're just working now out of college and they don't have so much money to maybe put into different buckets that we call in the financial world in terms of small, medium, long-term investing. Take what you have and you can still divide a small pie into those pieces, right? There are companies out there that don't necessarily require minimums to open up certain accounts. So even if you have $5,000, $10,000, you can still divide that up into the goals that you have and into the time frames that you have, in my opinion. And then each of those areas will grow as you add more money to it and as it naturally grows with the market. But even if someone's not prepared to really divide up all their money into that pie and they are just starting out maybe in college, start with step one. Like I said, right, it just journey of 1,000 steps starts with a single step. So start with that step one. Basically, you should just make a plan. I think that's where people are really lacking. They should write down their goals. People don't write down their goals. They should write down their financial goals, write down how much money they want to save, write down how much money they want to earn, where they want to be within what time frame. And you know what? They'll get there if they have the focus, right? What you focus on grows. So as long as they have that plan in place, and again, if they don't have the money to fill up each bucket right away, start with the first bucket and then just grow from there.
Exactly. Yeah, I think especially in a world with shortening attention spans and younger generations, they want to see results immediately. But a lot of the time, you are playing the long game with your finances, so make sure to keep that in mind.
Mhm.
Don't get too excited too quickly, but make a
Exactly.
plan.
Yeah. And to that point, again, just like you said with the gaming, right? It's not that you can't have any fun with it, but it's just be smart. And the long-term money over time is gonna grow. And then, make sure that's set aside and then have fun with maybe some other funds that you have.
Exactly. Yes, as long as you make a plan and you know what could happen with those funds, I think you should be prepared.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, maybe stepping into a slightly controversial topic, which is artificial intelligence, a lot of people have trust in it and a lot of people don't. But how do you see the future of personal finance evolving with technology and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is a great tool. It's something that's to most people brand new. I'm sure to the other folks who are kind of in that world, they've seen it before, and now it's kind of reaching the masses, right? But I think that it's someone told me who I work with and who's sort of a mentor to me that AI really has been created for probability and not for accuracy. So I wouldn't necessarily take AI with the same severity or you know yeah, as if I'm working with like a financial advisor or someone who actually knows my situation. I would take it more for general information, maybe talking to me about habits or how to create that plan. I think it's very useful for more of a macro or broader approach to finances, but when it comes to someone's individual finances, they definitely need to speak to someone who has their interest right at heart, and who can actually help them along because AI is great, but a robot or a technology doesn't know you, right? But I think it's definitely plays to people's advantage today. The timing of it is so quick. You just ask a question and the answer pops right up, right? People aren't looking up in the encyclopedia anymore, right? Or you're even digging online regularly. So I think it's an asset for sure.
One good thing about AI is it is increasing financial literacy, and there has been growing awareness about financial accessibility. You see it all the time on social media. So, what are some practical ways the finance industry can help close the wealth gap and this gap between financial literacy?
I think just reaching younger people, right? Like we've been talking about, Instagram and all of these apps and all the social media. I'm not on TikTok, but maybe TikTok, right? There's now just more readily available at people's fingertips. So, the wealth gap. Sure, there are kids, I'm sure, who are sitting in California creating apps and businesses and multimillionaires, right? You see celebrities, young people, multimillionaires in their 20s, maybe even younger, a little bit older. But for the general masses who maybe don't have as much money, closing that wealth gap now with AI and with everything online, I think will definitely happen as the years go on. And just more of that reach, more of that accessibility, more of the education that people can access, and probably also opportunities, right? There's more ways that people can make money online now with different vehicles than there were years ago. You see people making money left and right online. So, whether that's AI generated or not, I think even just that access to ideas and opportunities on the web are creating um, incomes for people of any age, maybe people who don't have as much money, but are being able to add right multiple streams of income, really important to their portfolio and help to close that gap. Hope that answered the question.
Oh, perfectly. Yeah, I think it's difficult when your parents don't have that knowledge to pass on to you, but every single day it's becoming easier to acquire that knowledge by yourself. So if you are proactive and you just start, I'm sure you will get results that you will be happy with.
Yep, the information's there. You just have to look for it, and you just said a keyword right there. Like you just have to start. I think fear plays a big part into, you know, just any area of life that people have. If you feed it, that's what's gonna grow. But if you're afraid of something, you're not gonna take any action, right? And that's the last thing you want to be. So just start. Everything will be fine.
Thank you so much. So we have been talking about this next question, I think, already. But if you have anything else to add, what skills or habits do you think will define financially successful individuals in the next decade?
Oh, I think it first starts with a mindset. So I think they have to have the right mindset when it comes to finance, when it comes to say, their own personal financial journey. So you can get, mindset from lectures, you can get mindset from books. There's plenty of books out there on financial literacy. I think that people, different habits, they need to save, they need to pay themselves first, right? We spoke about saving, but really pay yourself first. A lot of people are, they earn money and then the money goes out 100 different ways out of the bank account, right? Pays the student loans, pays the car note, pays the mortgage that they have, pays the credit card bill. But they really need to pay themselves first because those other places, they will get paid eventually. But if you don't pay yourself first, that's a problem. Other habits, oh gosh, there's so many. Reading, paying yourself first, budgeting, that's a huge one. I mentioned that earlier. I think that everyone should have a budget, create a budget, and stick to the budget, right? It's not enough just to create it, but to actually then use it, right? Just like you could create an exercise plan, but if you don't use it, what good is it, right? Um, Other habits. I've even heard writing things down. If you really have a financial goal, write down every purchase that you make. And it may sound a little silly, but when it's time to pay for XYZ and you're going to write that down, you're going to think twice about it. Another habit that people could have is um, I mean, I've even heard of the envelope method. I don't know if you ever heard about this, but if people are really trying to budget for something, don't use the habit of maybe don't do just the debit card or the credit card. Start to pay with cash, which could go against people's belief of, well, if I pay with a credit card, I earn points and all these other things, which is true. But if you have poor money management and then you can't pay the credit card, now you're paying interest on the credit card. And it's worse because now you're behind the eight ball. So a habit could be if you're trying to really budget and get yourself squared away, use a cash envelope method, right? Where you know what, you have $400 a month for these groceries, and when it runs out, not that you're gonna starve, but it helps to create better money management there, right? And when you hand over a $50 bill to someone, it really makes you think twice, do I need this item or not? Right? So good mindset, read books, create a budget, stick to the budget, actually work it, things like that.
Yeah, I think you bring up an excellent point, and it's also been like psychologically tested, and it's been shown that things feel more expensive when you pay with cash and cheaper when you pay with card, and even worse is when you pay with Apple Pay. Those $6 to $20 purchases may not seem like a lot right now, treat yourself, but those will add up. You need to write those down and you need to account for those purchases.
Oh yeah. If the average person looks at their account, most people, they have debit purchases coming out constantly. And you're right, it's all those little amounts that add up. Yep. It's not the big hits that derail people, it's the little amounts.
Which I think leads us into our next question, which I think we already covered partly, which is what role does emotional intelligence play in making sound financial decisions?
That is a great question, and I think that emotion should play zero part in people's financial decisions. However, that is not the case. I sit with people all the time, and I have no emotional attachment to their money because it's not mine, right? I have more of an objective view, so I can see things black and white. This isn't everyone, but there are a lot of people who their emotions are tied to their money, and that's why they really need a third party to help them. That third party can bring clarity to the situation, they can break things down, they can look at things objectively. um and it's the same thing, like just eh, people have a 401k, for example, right? They don't see the 401k account because the money comes out of their paycheck and goes into that 401k, and maybe they don't check it every day because they're retiring in 40 years, and it just grows on the side, right? Out of sight, out of mind. But when they have money in their savings account and now say, okay, take X amount to invest it, they just can't seem to part with that because it's what they look at every single day, right? Same thing on the other side. If someone's investing and you have a stock and now the stock is going up, well, you're not married to that stock forever, right? People, greed starts to set in. Their emotions start to take root in that. Oh, maybe it'll go up another $10 tomorrow, another $20 tomorrow. I once heard that you should never be upset with making a profit, right? So maybe just take the money, be happy with it because tomorrow that thing could go down, right? So emotions should play 0%. Unfortunately, Nicole, emotions tend to play 100% into people's financial picture, and I think that's what sets people back, quite honestly, because then they can't make a decision and their emotions get the best of them. So you should just have a third party to be objective and to tell you how it is. At the end of the day, it's that person's decision of whether they want to move forward with something and that recommendation. But yeah, it's like amazing. I was like, if you could just look at something logically instead of emotionally, in my opinion, everyone would be a multimillionaire.
No, I think you bring up an excellent point, and one word that you kept bringing up is objective. You need to be objective. And if you can't do that, bring someone in, take a step back. There are tools that you can use, but make sure, especially in the market, it is easy to react with your emotions. So think logically and think strategically.
Yep, 100%.
Mhm. So, this video is going to be going on social media, and we're talking about finances, we're talking about financial advice, and there are millions of videos on the internet that are doing the same, trying to educate people, some with good purposes, and then some, unfortunately, there are some videos that have malicious purposes. So, how can individuals evaluate financial advice or information in an age of constant social media influence?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there has to be some kind of credibility backed by it, right? So, or just take things with a grain of salt, but there is so much stuff, so many things out there where as long as you're talking to someone who's in a fiduciary capacity, you know that that person has their client's best interest at heart, not because they just want to or they're their friend. It's their job to do that, right? In that capacity, otherwise they would be fired. But just don't. I think people have a gut instinct and they know when something is fishy and when something isn't. If you're reading blogs and forums and people's opinions, that's not fact. That's not something that's geared towards you. That's probably not something that is credible. So you just want to look at credible sources, things that actually are backed up by maybe Federal Trade Commission or, a financial firm or, you know, backed by something or someone that has something to lose. People who give advice generally just run off the mouth because they have nothing to lose. And unfortunately, some people gravitate towards those comments and they think that that's credible. But if you have something to lose, you're going to give the facts.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure to always do your research on people on the internet. What are their credentials, and always double check any advice with reliable sources that have, great journalists and people that have credible stories. Make sure to always double check because a lot of times, also on social media, even if a little piece of information they're giving you might be technically correct, you could be missing a large part of the story, which would make that advice just bad on its own, just quite frankly.
Yeah, just be cautious. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, well, thank you so much for your time. We have one final question to end this interview, which is what guiding principle or mindset do you believe leads to long-term financial stability and confidence?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the mindset just really needs to be play the long game and like you said earlier, don't play so much into the initial gratification that people want instant gratification. I think the real key to financial success is follow those principles I mentioned earlier and just have the long game in mind. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for joining us. Your advice has been invaluable to our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Nicole. Take
Awesome.
care. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode. If you made it to the end, you are a hero and you have just learned a whole bunch, I bet. So that's really exciting. And what else is exciting is what we have in store for you next week.